Happy thanks for taking that.
Good?
Yeah.
Printing it out.
All right. You good? Good. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Kathy, can you please do the roll call?
Mrs. Briscoe? Here. Mrs. Tunney? Here. Mrs. Ost?
Here.
Mr. Andreessen?
Good evening.
Mr. Bush?
Here.
Mrs. McMillan?
Here.
Mrs. Zelinski? Here.
Okay, can you please stand for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our first act of business is the Galaxy Award presentation, so I'll proudly pass it over to Dr. Cohen.
The Mokena School District 159 Galaxy Award is a program designed to specifically recognize the above and beyond accomplishments and contributions of Mokena School District 159 employees, students, parents, community members, and community organizations. These awards are intended to celebrate truly exceptional accomplishments and contributions that were so impactful it changed the life of a student, employee, or family, or the community at large in a positive and deeply meaningful way. Before sharing information about the 4 2023 Galaxy Award winners, we want to thank the Mokena Educational Foundation and the Mokena Parent-Teacher Association for partnering with the school district. Their ongoing support and tireless contributions make 159 a great place to be for our students and staff. If the MEF and PTA were eligible to win a Galaxy Award, they would certainly be nominated for their efforts. We would also like to thank the Foundation and the Parent-Teacher Association for generously contributing a $100 gift card that our winners can use at their discretion. The Galaxy Award Selection Committee included the District 159 Board of Education President Eric Bush, the Mokena Educational Foundation President Jamie Madonia, the Mokena Parent-Teacher Association Treasurer Jennifer Chiappetti, District 159 Community Relations Coordinator Nicole Swanberg, and myself. The Galaxy Award Selection Team was very pleased with the nearly 30 nominations that we received this year. We are fortunate to live in a community with no shortage of individuals who go above and beyond in the service of others. We had a very hard time making the final selections as every nomination provided amazing examples of people making a deeply meaningful and positive difference in our community. On behalf of the Board of Education, the students and staff of District 159, the Mokena Educational Foundation, and Mokena Parent-Teacher Association, we'd like to thank you once again for your tireless efforts to make the school district and our community a great place to work, to live, and to learn. At this time, first, we'd like to bring up Nicole Steck. Nicole has been a speech-language pathologist with the Mokena School District for the last 12 years. Many of the students that Nicole serves either have limited to no expressive language or their speech cannot be fully understood due to their significant speech impairment. Nicole provides a voice for these students through the use of augmentative communication systems. She took it upon herself to be the person in the special education department to provide these services. This required numerous hours of attending professional development, the majority of which was done outside of her school day. Nicole has not only to train the student to use the device, but she also needs to train the family of the student, getting the device so that they can communicate with their child at home. Nicole even arranged for a renowned augmentative communication specialist to provide professional development to our special education staff during 3 early dismissal days. If you happen to see freestanding communication boards on our playgrounds or the communication boards in our gymnasiums, that is due to Nicole as well. Nicole, thank you for all that you do for our kids with special needs for the district. It's greatly appreciated. Mm-hmm. Right. Next is Stacy Kittler. Stacy's been a social worker at Mokena Elementary School for the last 20 years. She has supported the Kids Connection program in our district, which is a before-school program that supports students experiencing a death or divorce in their family. She's always been passionate about making sure these students feel they are not alone in their situation. She also works with the Mokena Education Foundation to fund school supply kits for families that cannot afford them. Every year, Stacy can be seen collecting and organizing donations, which are brought to our school as part of the Frankfurt Food Pantry Drive that assists families within our community so they have what they need during the holidays. Most especially, though, Stacy's name is often heard on the walkie-talkies in our school when her assistance is needed to help a student in crisis. You know, if there's a 911 for a student in crisis, it's Stacy. When she's not rushing to a student in need or seeing the students our caseload, she's often consulting with other teachers and educators how best to help their students. She provides numerous training sessions for our staff across the district in the area of crisis prevention and intervention to give them the tools they need to de-escalate situations safely and effectively. We are all very fortunate that she's part of our Mokena 159 family. Thank you very much, Stacy. Victoria Clifford. Ms. Clifford sets high standards for her band students and has provided each student with the skills and ability to reach them. She gives her band students the tools to succeed in band concerts, competitions, and the 4th of July parade. She sponsors the beginning band, concert band, jazz band, percussion ensemble, and summer band, which I happen to see her today directing. Ms. Clifford has a positive attitude and never gives up on a child. She sees exactly what each child brings to the school and to the community. She has a friendly and strong presence both in and out of the classroom. She is loved, respected, and admired by band students, parents, and coworkers, and she inspires her students with her intelligence, enthusiasm, humor, and creativity. If there's one thing, Victoria, we have to say personally, is the first sounds that come out of a young instrumental, like instruments, listening to a first group of 4th grade trumpet players. Oh my goodness. But when they're done with your class, they come out sounding wonderful. So congratulations and thank you for all you do for our kids. And Kathy Arduino. One of our parents said, Mrs. Arduino gets to know her students on an individual level, and as a parent, I've never before felt like such a partner in my child's education. With the unexpected and tragic passing of Eddie Smerzinski this year, Mrs. Arduino supported our children in a way that I cannot imagine, all while dealing with her own grief. She somehow navigated the tricky waters of remembering a classmate and continuing to honor her memory, while also keeping consistency and learning and expectation. I am forever grateful to how she led her class, both parents and students, through this unimaginable tragedy. And from a colleague, Kathy Arduino coordinates a special event for the veterans at Mokena Elementary School each year, and multiple times a year she raises funds or collections for the Mantino Veterans Home. She visits the home and brings supplies and cards to lift their spirits and thank them for their service. Her dedication and service to this very worthy cause is beyond commendable. Kathy has also mentored several new teachers within the Mokena School District and welcomed them with open arms. She will always go the extra mile to help her colleagues professionally as well as personally, and she's always there for a pep talk. Overall, Kathy, you're an amazing team player, teacher, and friend to our community. You care deeply about our school, about your class, your students, and your role in the community. Thank you for all you do for Mokena. You want to stand behind the table and then you can have the sign in the foreground? Yeah. And now, as they say on TV, and now for something completely different,
Yes.
the amended budget hearing.
All right. Okay, congratulations to the winners. Like Dr. Cohen said, we had 30 very strong applicants in the 4 rows to the top. So congrats again for all the efforts that you do. Okay, moving on then on to the amended budget hearing. Yeah, okay.
I know it is.
We'll pause. Yes.
Take care.
They clapped last time, Dr. Shaw.
Yeah. All right, I declare that the fiscal year 2022-2023 amended budget hearing begins at 7:11 p.m. Okay, Dr. Shaw, floor is yours.
All right, so with the amended budget, through the process, our timeline is that we saw the first draft, we had the board information and timeline. Last month, I shared this very similar presentation, except it said tentative, and tonight it is the actual amended budget. It was on display for 30 days, it's been on our website, and tonight we're asking for formal approval. Nothing has changed from last month to this month, the data is exactly the same. So we had the original budget, which I put on here, and with the amended budget following our original budget and then the amended budget. And you can see on the next slide, amended budget highlights, it's the same as what in expenses. We had some decreases in revenue with an aggregate of $613,000 of the original budget expenses. Listed on the slide are what the specific line changes were. It is the same as it was last month. And then there are some slides, where does our money come from? The pie chart makes it very, very obvious that our local money is the majority of our district revenue. Very fortunate in Mokena to have strong local support. We do have almost 10% state and 6.8 federal. Our federal money will drop off with the discontinuation of the ESSER funds. And then our district expenses, where does our money go? Like the pie chart, the numbers are also on here. We are a people business, so the majority of our budget goes to people in the forms of salary, benefits, and purchase services, and capital and other objects, which is our tuition to our co-op. So the majority of our budget is contractual obligations, and it's about our people. Any questions on any specifics of the amended budget or the timeline?
Nothing's here. The budget hearing is an opportunity for members of the community to make comments regarding the proposed budget. This time, questions and comments regarding the proposal seem to be exhausted. I move that we close the 2022-2023 amended budget hearing. Is there a second? Second by Lisa. Discussion? Okay, Kathy, can you please call the vote?
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost?
Yes.
Mrs. Tunney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. That closes the budget hearing. I make a motion that we reopen the regular June 1st, 2023 Board of Education meeting. Second by Jim. Any discussion? Let's call the vote.
Briscoe? Yes. Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan? Yes. Mrs. Oates? Yes. Mrs. Tony? Yes. Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. So we are technically back into regular session here. So next item up is communications, public communications. Do we have any public communications? No public communications. MTA. Nothing today. Short and sweet. MCSA. Short and sweet as well. MEF.
Just real quick, just want to,
all the Galaxy Award winners. Second of all, June 25th is the closing date. You can still buy school kits. So just a reminder that school kit purchases are still open. So hopefully we get a few more school kits sold. And I just want to say congratulations to the PTA and being newly elected. And MDF is excited to work with you ladies on the future. So that's it.
Okay, go to the PTA.
I'm Mari Fada. I have an incoming third grader and kindergartner. I'm the president of the PTA. It's nice to meet you and look forward to working with you all in the future.
Hello, I'm Victoria Regalado. I am the Vice President of the PTA.
Hi, I'm Erin Ford. I am also VP of the PTA. I have an upcoming first grader, and then I have a son who's a junior in college, so he's gone. But very excited about being on the PTA and getting to work, making things a good year, having a good year.
I am Tracy Slowinski. I've been a Mokena resident for 5 years. I am your newly elected PTA secretary. I have a daughter, Nola, who will be starting third grade this year. And I'm just looking forward to taking on the challenge and making things happen with all these ladies this year and working with all of you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amanda Allen. I'm treasurer. It's nice to meet you all. Thank you for having us here tonight. I just wanted to say thank you to the previous board. They did a great job. Hopefully, we have big flip shoes to fill, so hopefully we can do that. And that's it. Thanks.
There's no better way to make a first impression than an ice cream social. So great job. I love it. Bye. Thank you. Okay. Board of Education, while we're thinning the crowd out.
So I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time, so please redirect me if necessary, but I was hoping to have some sort of discussion about the Finance Committee, not anything particular about what the topics that they're investigating right now, but more of the kind of the meat and potatoes of what the Finance Committee does. I know that there is a brief write-up in the policies, but I had submitted some questions via email, so I'm not entirely sure where we can have that discussion, but I wanted to raise that now, and then if you could redirect me to when it's better placed, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I'm just looking, and I don't see on the agenda and the information reports, we don't have the Finance Committee update with Lisa. So we might, I don't know. Usually it's...
Yeah, it kind of fell off, I think, a couple months ago, actually.
Yeah, we didn't have it. So...
I missed it. My apologies. Should have added it.
Okay, we can make it... well, I guess we can just talk about it. Well, when does it normally happen? Right before Dr. Cohen? Okay, so we'll do information reports. We'll do a Finance Committee update, and then we can address questions then. Is that okay with everyone? So that was, have a 7 before A. Okay, any other Board of Education? No, okay. The next is a discussion item on the board workshop. So, I don't know if you want me to lead or, we tossed out 3 dates, I believe, and we didn't get consensus on any of those 3 dates. So I think one of the proposals was to do the July board meeting. If we did it earlier, since it was a light agenda, we could start it at 6 o'clock potentially. And then if the meeting was only for an hour, which we think we could possibly get it done, we'd possibly be able to start the board workshop at 7. And that still would be in the 3-hour time frame, which was kind of estimated of what would be done if we would have done it on those 3 proposed dates. So with that, I don't know, Dr. Cohen, do you have any other thoughts to share on that?
No, I mean, Gary Zabilka, the facilitator that was recommended by Dr. White. I mean, last time we talked, Dr. White was suggested by the board. Dr. White felt like, having worked in the district with 4 of the 7 board members, he felt it would be best to have somebody else facilitate that as to avoid any conflict of interest. Dr. Zabilka is does workshops all across the state for the IASA. I've been in workshops with him before. He does a great job. He had suggested a 3-hour session, one evening session. So yeah, we had at least 2 conflicts on each of the 4 dates that were put out. So, knowing that everyone is planning on being at the board meeting, we thought this might be an opportunity to get that workshop in, in a timely manner, so that way we get to it before we start the school year.
And I think the important thing too is that if it needs to be longer than 3 hours, by all means, we can have a second session. I don't want this to necessarily feel like it has to be 3 hours. If it's 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever it needs to be. But I just think that Dr. Cohen's point, since those 4 dates, sorry, I said 3, 4 dates didn't work out, we're now looking into potentially September and beyond to try to find some unified dates.
I feel it's not a 3-hour session for a new board to come together. A workshop is a true workshop. It's an all-day session for all of us to feel each other out and know each other. I don't feel 3 hours is going to do us any good. So that's just me.
I would have to agree, that I don't think we could accomplish probably the whole scope in 3 hours. I do think the sooner the better, though, that we start. So maybe while we talk about scheduling the 3 hours, maybe now we also schedule the second session to just get it on everybody's calendars now as well. My question also is about who will facilitate this. I think what you said is the second guy that was suggested, but the first lady that's our representative at the state did we check back with her? Would she be ideal versus the second? Because she's our.
Yeah, she's the IASB Field Services Director for this region. Her availability is primarily the first week of the month. It didn't work out in July. Wouldn't probably work out in August based on what I know, and so that was going to push it into September. Really, it's up to the board to decide who they want to go with. Dr. Zabilka is obviously not with IASB, so the service doesn't come free. This is something that we'd pay that firm for, but he is a partner in the same firm with Dr. White, and I have a lot of respect for their work. So I think you do a fine job as well. I can forward you the tentative agenda that he put forward. A lot of it is about finding your why, about discussing personalities, our mission and vision, values, and then coming together. It's I want to say a fairly standard format for this type of workshop, but I can also let him know that, should there be unfinished business, we would ask him to come back another day. I don't know that would happen before the school year begins, based on the amount of conflicts that everybody had going into the month of July, but we could certainly get it on the docket for shortly after.
could we do the same thing in August as we're doing in July?
The August meeting usually is a little busier. We could, but that's pretty tight. Usually we have a lot, the personnel report's usually a little bit bigger. We have the tentative budget. So the July meeting, it worked out because it's usually pretty short. There's not a lot of meat on the bone there because it's summer. But once we get into the school year, it starts to get a little busier. But that's a board decision.
I would rather not do 2 sessions. You can just knock this off in one day, have a Saturday session. I know it's summer, we all want to do things, but it's very important for us to get together as a board, and we need to find the time to do it. And we need a day to do it, not 3 hours.
What were the dates in June?
I believe it was next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Do we know if the facilitator has any Saturday availability?
I can
Doesn't sound
ask.
If she doesn't have any Saturday availability, then we need to find someone who does. This is important
Yeah.
to do this.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need more than maybe 1 or 2 options as the facilitator, but also, isn't there an app where we can just fold in all of our calendars and be left with dates that potentially work for us? Or,
Oh, there certainly is, and we could have done it that way. I just know that between Eric's schedule, Dr. Zabilka's schedule, and mine, we tried to avoid the weeks of board meetings because we didn't want to have 2 meetings in a night or back-to-back. We did not look at Saturdays. It was sort of our assumption, and correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, that we would just have way too many conflicts with people's children and their activities, especially in the summertime with so many different athletic things going on. So, again, it's a consensus of the board. Let me know, and I can let Gary know. I can throw it out to a few other folks. We can go back to ISB. I will say that ISB did not offer a Saturday session. That was not an option. It was only a 3-hour session during the week.
So is there another partner in Dr. White's firm that would potentially be available to facilitate if we're not going to go with Dr. White or?
Well, I can ask Dr. Zabilka and see if what his availability is. I just don't know that it'll happen soon. I know he was traveling the first 2 weeks in July, or he had some conflict, so it would have to be closer to August. I can find out, but again, that's just, I think if we're going to start discussing that, are there days when everybody is available? It just makes so much sense to reach out if between now and August, we can't find dates where everybody's going to be around.
Are we exclusively looking at Saturday at this point? If we're talking about dates, is that what we're talking
I think so.
I mean, if we're going to have an all-day session, yes, we have a Saturday where we can come in and do this, if everybody can do that.
Is Sunday out of the question for
No,
people?
absolutely not.
Sunday potentially?
But I don't know that I've ever seen her up on Sunday, but if somebody's willing to do it, sure. If everybody wants for Sunday.
I don't think I have any Saturday that I'm not available, so I'll make it work.
I will make it work as well, but if the IASB rep was only going to do 3 hours, I'm more than happy. I do agree that it would take longer, but if that's the only time that she was going to give it as well, then that's kind of indicative of the expectation that they set. But again, I will make it work.
Any other thoughts?
about? If we're honestly looking at Saturdays in July, I'm shocked. First weekend in August, I'm out between rugby tournaments and other stuff Saturdays. And honestly, I work a lot of Saturdays too. So that creates a problem right there. Evenings are slightly easier. But that's going to be a challenge.
Can we do 2 evenings in a row? I hate to do that to folks, but can we do 1819 or 1920?
If they were separated like maybe a Monday and a Wednesday generically, that's more possible.
Okay,
The Tuesday and Thursdays are generally occupied.
I can make that work if Dr. Zabilka's available.
You reach out to him and ask about Monday the 17th. If that's everybody's thought.
If we're talking Monday the 17th ballpark, are we talking starting at 5, 6? What do we think?
We can probably start at 7 o'clock and do 7 to 10 or 6:30 to 9. We don't have to start super early. The only reason for starting early on the 19th was that we would have a board meeting before the workshop. And so we'd have to take care of at least the personnel report, the bills, et cetera. We don't have to start that early on Monday.
Well, if we did Monday the 17th and then we have our board meeting Wednesday, so it's folded, we're talking about, that's doable.
I can do that too.
I think I can make the 17th work, I think.
What do you guys?
I mean, I will double check. I think the 17th would work. Saturdays are shot. Sam, any thoughts? Could you make the 17th work if Gary's available?
I hear you. I got the work and I got the person. No, I got the two. I got the work and then I got the family. I've got to coordinate all this stuff, but I haven't color coded. So I'm a big dork like that. I have a lot of.
Sam, did you say that you could, or?
I can do the Monday, Wednesday thing. I have one Saturday only available between now and August. No, next Saturday.
All right, so we'll see if the 17th works, I guess, and then we'll do the 17th and 19th. Is that what everyone's suggesting?
If not, then we just continue to adjust the Wednesday then, because that's what we can get going.
I think it's positive something you can deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in that same boat as I'd rather have something rather than nothing to wait till September. Because who knows? I mean, if I can't pronounce his last name. Sabelka. Sorry, I keep saying Gary. I'm probably disrespecting him. Sorry, Sabelka. If he's saying 3 hours and our field rep's saying 3 hours, I get that it probably with new board members probably could be longer than 3 hours. But is that 4? Is it 5? I don't know. I mean, if we can take 3 at a time, then maybe to get an extra hour or 2 might not be as bad if we can get it pretty quick on people's calendars. If we knock it out, I mean, yes, to Anna's point, it's ideal to do it all in one setting, get it done. There's no start, stop. Where did we end up? Where do we have to pick it up? But sometimes it doesn't always work the best way. Yeah. So, all right, we'll see what the 17th, how that sounds then. Okay. All righty. Now we'll move on to information reports. And we will start before Dr. Cohen. Sorry, we're going to call an audible here and go with Finance Committee. Lisa, we had a meeting. Do you want to give an update on? I can give the update on the meeting, or if
Everybody was
you
there for the most part about the electric buses. Midwest came in and spoke on them, answered the questions he could answer. And we talked about the different grants.
We also talked about the calendar for next year,
Oh, yes,
Yes.
calendar
and
for
we
next
moved
year.
special ed conversation to the September. And we also talked about having the 4 finance committee meetings, and we talked about the regular budget. We do kind of 3 months. It's like, this is what's coming, and here's the timeline, and then the information request with the approval of the tentative budget, and then the final month with the actual action for the approval of the budget, similar to the last 3 months that we've done with the amended budget. And with the first finance committee being in September, it's actually kind of toward the end of the cycle. But what we talked about was the majority of our budget was really contractual obligations and people. And we've went through the budget for the last several years with very clear directive on what that budget needs to look like. talked about that too.
Is now the right time to talk about the follow-up on the electric bus grant that we discussed in that meeting? Dr. Shaw, or?
Ask any questions you want, we can answer, I'm sure.
Well, I asked him,
Yeah,
did you guys find out anything after
we have not gotten any information yet back from Midwest.
have we confirmed we're a priority district?
We're trying to confirm that. We've requested that list and we're waiting for the
From who?
response
From whom?
from Midwest. The man that was here.
Isn't it the EPA that put out that list that I emailed?
He said he had the priority districts in Illinois on a priority list. And I asked him if he could share that link with us because I didn't see it.
Okay.
Right. So it was an interesting discussion. I think there were a lot of questions left unanswered that we have to follow up on. I think the important thing to note, one of the things before we left the meeting, we did talk about the time frame for this. It sounds like we don't need to make a decision until we have up until the August board meeting to make that decision on whether we're going to apply for this grant. It sounds like he would do all the work for us. And it's, even if we applied for the grant, and we got it, doesn't necessarily mean that we would, excuse me, have to take it, I guess, or accept it in January when they award the grants. So I think we just probably need to, as a board, just kind of an administrative team, just keep working the questions on it so that we can, maybe have a quick follow-up, make sure that we're getting answers to our questions in July so that we can make a final call in August if we're going to.
Yeah, honestly, I thought he would come a little bit more prepared to the meeting with a little bit more of the financial data, which he didn't have. So we need to get that to you. And as soon as we get that from Midwest, we'll share that with the board.
I do think there was some clarity in the sense that we keep talking about two grants. One was this grant that the Midwest would apply for us, right? And then there's this VW settlement. We're not eligible for the VW settlement one. So just kind of put that one away. It's not going to happen. It's just this grant that we may or may not be a priority district in Will County, one of the very few that would make us eligible for this.
So with that said, do you want to take a little poll and see how the board feels so we don't have to wait until August? Maybe we can vote on it next month instead of waiting until August?
Good. I mean, I think I'd like to have questions answered before we call to a vote.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to establish if we're eligible. I mean, if we're not eligible, then it's just not even off of, don't even take a step forward at all. So I think that's the first question, probably.
That's fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Fair.
Okay. Okay, that was the finance committee meeting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the other thing was the schedule. We did move some things around.
We did move some things around. Yep.
To try to fit things in. I think it was in the last finance committee meeting, it was determined that the meetings would be moved to quarterly. And so we looked at agenda again. I think, I said at the finance committee meeting, and I'll say it again here, the important is those meetings are not set in stone. The topics are not set in stone. You can move things around. We just need to be flexible on that front as we move some things around. The first time we looked at it. So, well, not the first time, but as we looked at things. So, and as things arise, there might be the need to bring other topics up that might arise. I mean, I don't think the electric school bus was on the agenda thing, but there was an opportunity, it sounded like, to apply for a grant that we could potentially get, potentially a $400,000 school bus for the price of, $20,000 to $40,000. Sounded like an opportunity, and it was pursued. So, all right, It's the finance committee update. All right, so questions, right?
Yeah, so for clarity though, on the calendar, so it was voted on to go quarterly. Was there any further consideration to keeping those monthly meetings and just canceling them so you don't have to scramble to find a date if something comes up? I would have been able to attend the regularly scheduled one on the 12th, I think it was. Sorry, I'm off a couple weeks, but we had to scramble and get a date. So I think it's much easier to cancel something than to scramble and put something on. I can understand the quarterly if you're talking solely about the budget, and that's the primary focus of the finance committee. But things come up. So was there any discussion of the calendaring?
No, not, well, I can't speak to the meeting that was voted on to move to quarterly. I was not there. I could speak to the last meeting, and no. So 6 board members were there. None of us questioned the quarterly thing. We also have 2 members from the community. We also have 2 staff members. Thank you, Ms. Blank. Also here for that. She serves on that committee. No one brought it up. So I think it's worth noting that that wasn't a knee-jerk reaction to move to quarterly. That was a discussion that the committee has been having for probably at least a year now, as far as there were topics that were getting, for lack of a better term, stale. We were looking at amended budget 2 times. We were looking at budget 2 times, levy 2 times. So, to bring everybody there for an hour where you look at the same slides, Dr. Shaw might have maybe made a slight adjustment to them, but for the same, and to be honest, if I have $1 for every time I see a slide that Dr. Shaw puts up about where our revenues come from, 87% local, the other percent, I wish I had $1 because I would be retired right now. There was no discussion at that meeting as far as moving away from the quarterly meetings. But I just want to reassure you that that was not some knee-jerk reaction. That's been in the works for quite some time. And that, again, with the flexibility, if there needs to be a 5th meeting or a 6th meeting, we call it. Now, to your point, if for your scheduling purposes or for anyone's scheduling purposes, if you want to block off that second Monday on your calendar, block it off, because that's when the normal meeting would happen. If that helps, then block that off, because that's usually when we'll have it. My understanding is the reason this special one was not on that second Monday is because the representative from Midwest Transportation could not make it on that Monday, so then it was moved to the Wednesday. So if that helps, I would suggest moving to that. But the committee did not have any discussion. There's no momentum or anything that would push it to monthly.
So respectfully, I have, since the last board meeting, have asked this question, and nobody responded in email or when I've texted or called, that keep these on a regular schedule, please. And there was nobody that wanted to respond. So who is the chair of the finance committee, and how do we appoint the chair of the finance committee so somebody can be accountable for questions that are outstanding?
So Lisa Zielinski is the chair. She has been the chair. So history lesson for everybody. Finance committee was started back when I first started on the board. Lisa started on the board. We started the finance committee, Dr. White. The sole purpose of the finance committee at that time was to look at referendum options for the school district. We looked at all the different options that we could have. We had several meetings, spent several hours analyzing those meetings. At the time, the finance committee was formed. I was the chairperson. I continue to be the chairperson. After the referendum process was selected, that we were going to go for the limiting rate, we then continued it on. We spent several hours as a board trying to figure out how we could promote the referendum, what we could and couldn't do. There are certain restrictions that the board can and can't do. I think that's worth noting. That, just because the board's not out on the street corner with a sign saying pass a referendum, there are certain restrictions that we had that we could not do, but we were doing flyers and information. After the referendum passed, thankfully, thank you, Mokena Public, it was then determined that, we would have an opportunity to continue with the finance committee meeting and with, some deep dives into financial topics that we haven't really done in the past. So we continued. I continued to be a chairperson at that time. Lisa was other representative. Just over 2 years ago, when I was elected president of the board, it was voted on the board, and I fully supported it, that the same person should not be president and chairman of the finance committee. At that point in time, Lisa was appointed chairperson of that committee, and that was our understanding. So when we had the election this past time, and myself and Lisa got nominated again for the finance committee, by default, she then became the chairperson, because I don't think that one person, and we continue with that logic. The board wants to change that and have the president and head of the finance committee be the same person. I would advise against it, but if the board, that's the will, then we can go with that route. But that's how it kind of transitioned from myself to Lisa as the lead. And that referendum has now been, 6 years ago or something like that. So we've been, that I would say that was probably the first year of the finance committee. Ever since then, we've been doing deep dives that we had, levy, budget, amended budget, transportation. We made a huge, we totally transformed our transportation funding model, courtesy of the finance committee meeting. We looked at transportation, technology, sorry, the other T. We did special education we did back in 2019, I believe. We had some bunch of other special topics that we've looked at. So that's the history of that. So to answer your question, that's a long-winded answer, but Lisa is the chairperson. And I would say that the meeting is open to the public. I know you weren't able to make that last meeting. Sam and Kelly were there. I think that the two of them would attest to this. It's pretty much an open forum. I mean, you sit there and, we have a very broad topic, and it's just everybody kind of just throwing their questions out there. There's no, you can't talk. It's just, just questions out there, just like the electric bus. I think everyone spoke and had questions. Fortunately, we didn't have a lot of answers for some of them, but it is. So that's the format that we go in. It's very open. So does that answer your question, maybe?
So if there are questions specific to the finance committee, we direct them to Lisa.
They usually go to Dr. Shaw or I.
Okay. So I just have more structure, procedural, administrative questions. It sounds like it's an informal committee that has no decision making, but there's a report that's supposed to come out for certain projects, right? Is that?
It's the Fund 21 referendum analysis.
Okay.
Part of the limiting rate referendum promise was that we would be extremely transparent, that every dollar would be accounted for. And so it's kind of a detailed report down to every dollar that's spent in that fund. And that's, we've been through 2 now, full and a half because of how we get our taxes. And so that is one of the almost like requirements that come out of the finance committee and then to the full board and then to our website.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I know that questions, then I know who to direct them to. So thank you.
I'm going to chime in here. So I'm not a proponent of people coming into a room without specific goals and objectives that come out of the meeting. And I know we have an agenda for the finance committee meetings, but I can't readily see the product that comes out of the meetings that benefits the board as a board committee. And so here's what I propose. I can see the benefit in theory of a finance committee. I think that's great. I really like how it's an open forum and people from the public can come and learn at the same time as board members and other committee members and have that interaction. I like that. Certainly finance is a topic that is important that we do need to spend some extra time on. I'm not opposed to that. what I would propose is we add this to maybe at some point, I don't know what point, but in our board session together, we as a new board have to just double check that we want to continue. And if we want to continue with it, how do we agree to continue? What does it look like? How can we put some more parameters around how it operates, who's accountable, what's going to happen, how does it benefit the board? It's a board committee. How does it benefit the entire board? So I think we should add it to the agenda for our session and to be determined.
This is why I apologize to our new board for not having a workshop in place or you guys were sworn in, because we should have had that in place. So we don't have these questions from you guys, So I apologize and we'll make sure we have it for our workshop.
Okay, anything else on the Finance Committee? Okay, Dr. Cohen, Superintendent's Report.
For my report, we'll be going through a review, a sort of a year in review of the strategic plan. So Lincoln, if you want to put that pull the presentation up. The next slide. As you are aware, we have 5 strategic plan goal areas: curriculum, which is separate from instruction. Some plans you'll see these 2, curriculum instruction, put together, but we broke this out in a greater detail. Finance and infrastructure, which includes technology, human resources, and communication. For purposes of this presentation, we decided to break the sub-goals, because each of these 5 goal areas has sub-goals, into goals that are in progress, those that have been completed, those that do not have an end date and therefore will go on in perpetuity, and those that have yet to be started. So we'll go ahead and get started with our goals in progress. Each member of cabinet can take the slides that relate to them. And then if you can go to the first slide, Lincoln, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little sunshine. If you see a sunshine, those are some areas that are, I will say, priority areas right now because of the work that is going on in the district, and it basically reflects things that our teachers are actively engaged in at this moment. So with that, I'll turn over to Dr. Johnson. No, they're both on.
I pressed the button a little too long. Lincoln was like, make sure it says not mute. And I was sorry about that. Okay, so I'm going to review accomplishments that had happened last school year, as well as this past school year. And please keep in mind that this plan wasn't officially approved until March of last school year. And so these were things that I was able to capture that we had been working on throughout the 21-22 school year. But this would be our first full year with the plan. So just keeping that in mind as you look through our accomplishments this year, and then look into our second full year with the plan into next school year. So our first goal that we had set together as a strategic planning committee was to research and adopt a new ELA curriculum in the areas of phonemic awareness, phonics, fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. Last school year, in the 21-22 school year, we formed an ELA committee for grades K through 5 that looked at the goal of adopting a foundational skills program for phonemic awareness and phonics. We went through a full year review process, and at the end of roughly 6 months, after piloting and trying things out in our classroom, our committee recommended the 95% core phonics program, and that was approved by the Board of Education for implementation this school year. So then this school year, we jumped right in at the start and were able to implement that program throughout the school year in grades K through 5. We then reconvened our ELA committee early in the fall this past school year to restart our program adoption process to look for those remaining components of vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. We went through a very similar process where we reviewed multiple programs that were out in the field using a rubric that our teachers constructed. We tried two programs out in our classrooms with our pilot teachers, and most recently brought to your approval, the adoption of Open Up Resources EL Education. And so that was a big accomplishment for us this year. Our 6-8 teachers are like, hey, what about us? And asked to be able to take a look at programs that were in the field that have been newly created since the last time they had looked. So at the very end of this school year, I did engage the teachers in similar work with creating a rubric that they will be using next year to review programs in the field to see if there is something that they feel will better meet our students' needs beyond what they're currently teaching in the classroom at this point. So like I said, next school year, we will have all of those ELA components in place in our K-5 classrooms with the continued use of 95% core phonics program for those foundational skills. And then we will have our official implementation of our ELA curriculum, EL education, to those remaining components of vocabulary, comprehension, and writing. And we will also be implementing, pending your approval this evening, our classroom libraries for independent reading that are aligned to those module topics that will allow our students to independently read books at a variety of levels on the topics in our modules, as well as practice those skills and strategies that are being instructed on in the classroom. Our 6-8 teachers will be engaging then in the review of the other curricular materials in the field using our rubric to see if there is something we would want to try out in our classrooms and possibly look to adopt for the following school year. And I did add this final bullet as of about 5 o'clock today. ISB has released a statewide literacy plan draft that they will have in final form come January of 2024. So we will be actively reviewing that in draft form, but then most importantly, come after Christmas time to ensure that what we've been doing up until this point is in alignment, and if there's any areas of opportunity for us to grow. I have been closely following other states the past couple years who have done similar plans, just to like thinking, ahead. I bet Illinois will follow. So I'm confident that we're in a really good spot. I know Mrs. Chorley and I were quickly looking, it's like a 60-page document, through it today, and we feel really good about what we're doing as it relates to that plan. But we'll do obviously more an in-depth dive into that to ensure that we're hitting all those things that ISB is researched to be best practice in the area of ELA. All right. So 1B, one of our goals, again, is to expand educational options and opportunities to extend our exploratory curriculum. This past 21-22, we did adopt Project Lead the Way at our junior high for our STEM exploratory. We also did add a strings music, or we approved a strings music program for implementation this school year. So this past school year then was the implementation phase of both of those programs. Project Lead the Way, I had opportunity to go into those classrooms and see the amazing engineering and collaborative work that was happening with the two courses that we implemented this year, the design and modeling and computer science. And then we also, as we saw with Mrs. Clifford today, we're able to implement that strings program 5-8. Next school year, we'll be adding an additional course. If you remember back to last year when I shared our plan for the implementation of Project Lead the Way, it was a phased-in approach. So next year, we will be adding green architecture to our Project Lead the Way scope and sequence at the junior high. We'll be expanding the strings program to move just beyond a beginning strings orchestra, because now we'll have students that have experience with the strings. And I will be doing some research along with Dr. Rolanitis at looking at ISB's new PACE framework that they have recently readopted. And this, by 2025, we have to be able to have a plan in place that meets the PACE framework's expectations in terms of having career exploration and career development activities in grades 6 through 8. So this year, they have not released their framework yet. But as soon as that is released, we'll be taking a close look at that so that we can plan over the next 2 years to ensure that we're meeting what the PACE framework is looking for in grades 6 through 8. At this time, I can't speak to completely what that will look like, if that will be an addition of courses or if that will be something more supplementary. But as we learn more about it, I'll be sure to provide more information to you. One C was ensuring that we set high expectations for all of our students and rigorous programs of study. And we hold that high expectation of rigor for all children. And that while doing that, we're also looking at pathways for more rigorous and rich coursework for those students who are showing readiness for that. Last school year, we worked through the curriculum adoptions for ELA, for the foundational skills, for Project Lead the Way, and then also for Eureka Math Squared, ensuring that all of these programs were aligned to the rigorous state standards and would have high expectations for all students. We are looking for all students to meet state standards regardless of their ability level. We did also provide public-facing information and procedures for the district's accelerated placement programs that have been available on our website for the past year. This school year, we were really happy to be able to return back to our differentiated practices during wind and ice time at both MES and MIS. Due to some COVID restrictions during that time, small group instruction and that closeness at a back table was a little more difficult based on the restrictions set for us by the state of Illinois. But this year, it was so great to be able to go back into our classrooms and see that differentiated instruction, that small group instruction happening within all of our classrooms. We also are adopting then the ELA curriculum at the K-5 level for the comprehension and writing that, again, we ensured that those programs were aligned to the rigorous state standards for all students. And we worked on curriculum maps at the junior high level that clearly outlined our expectations for all students in all courses at the junior high. Our next steps, looking into next school year, we are reviewing the junior high math enrichment course criteria with the potential to expand additional sections for this course. I can say that we did meet yesterday, Dr. Rolanitis, Mr. Munch, and Dr. Cohen, and we're excited to be able to offer a second section for our 6th grade math enrichment course for next school year based on our student data. So we're really excited to be able to broaden that opportunity for more students at the junior high level. We also will have a couple additional 7th graders that, based on our criteria, we will be sending an invitation as well, which will also end up having 2 sections of 7th grade if they all accept. So that's exciting news. We're going to begin construction of the curriculum maps in ELA and math now that we will have sound Tier 1 core programming in place for both of those content areas in K-5. And we will begin an exploration and research regarding enrichment opportunities beyond just what we're currently offering in math in grades 6 through 8. All right, 1E is really looking at having a sound assessment system within the district that includes both benchmark, formative, and summative assessments that's aligned to our state standards. Last school year, as part of our review process, we wanted to ensure that all of our new programming that we were looking at provided teachers with assessments that gave them both formative, how their students are doing on a daily basis, as well as summative information at the end of instruction. So both of those programs that we looked at last year, that was part of our criteria. It was one whole section of our rubric. And so this year, we were able to implement those programs, which included both those formative and summative assessments that our teachers are able to use on a daily basis in the classroom. Our interventionists also took a look at new diagnostic assessment tools that gave them a better picture and got drilled down a little bit more clearly of where students may need some additional support in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions aligned to our standards and our curriculum. Again, our ELA adoption this year for the comprehension and writing aspect, we had a whole section regarding assessment in our rubric. Again, it's very important to us that we have both those formative and summative assessments through any program that we're using that provides us information on how our students are doing towards the state standards in our classrooms. We did then at the end of the year, because of the shifts in our ELA programming, I met with a group of teachers from each grade level, and we did update our standards-based report card at the K-3 level to ensure that the the standards that we are reporting out to families aligns to our new curriculum and the assessment information that our teachers will be collecting throughout the school year. Our junior high curriculum maps, part of that process, was also clearly outlining our common formative and summative assessments. So those are known to everyone and they're clearly defined for all courses at the junior high level. So next year we will be implementing those common formative and summative assessments as part of our K-5 ELA program adoption. And we are going to continue to build our district MTSS processes and systems for data review at the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 level and begin to implement or refine those systems in each school. That process is still a work in progress with our MTSS committee. But once we have that finalized, each building will take a look at where they are in relation to that data review at each of those tiers of instruction and come up with a plan of how to move towards anything further that our plan outlines that we would like to have across the district. 2A is shifting then from curriculum, which is what we teach and our assessment, into instruction. And so 2A is outlining that we will continue to provide differentiated instruction as well as look to strengthen our intervention strategies for those students who are not yet meeting standards. In the 21-22 school year, we did a thorough English language learner program review that was conducted by our administrative team as well as our EL teachers, where we looked at strengthening our program based on the data that we had been receiving on access scores and how our students were progressing through the program. We worked with a consultant from the Illinois Resource Center and really took a deep dive into best practices in the field. And out of that came a multilingual guidebook that has served us this school year and really the framework for our ELL program. In the 21-22 school year, our interventionists also did a deep dive with me of their current instructional materials and resources for both reading and math to ensure that they had the materials aligned to standards and the curriculum in our classroom. We also did add a full-time reading interventionist at the junior high based on the data of the number of students who were needing services, as well as one full-time staff member in the ELL department at the junior high as well. So each building had one ELL teacher. Like I mentioned earlier, we have returned to our differentiated practices during the WIN and ICE blocks to meet the needs of all learners, from our students who might need more support to our students who need that extra enrichment or push at the K-5 level. We've convened a MTSS committee, which is represented from teachers, administrators, psychologists, special education teachers, district administrators who are really reviewing our current structures across the district. And we began crafting a district guidebook that outlines our vision for a great MTSS system for the district. We've also added 2.8 full-time special ed teachers, and I'll let Allison talk about that in a second. And again, we've implemented those additional intervention materials this school year that our interventionists took a look at the year prior. Allison, you want to add anything about the special ed teachers?
Sure. So this year we added one full-time teacher at the junior high, and we also added one full-time teacher here at Mokena Elementary School. In addition, we increased the social work supports at Mokena Intermediate School. So again, just supporting the needs of our students. We've seen an increase in the population of special education students being identified here in the district, and also an increase in students who are requiring the social emotional supports of a social worker. So just making sure that we're meeting students' needs.
And then moving into this upcoming school year, our MTSS committee will be continuing our work where we left off this school year. Our goal is to have a publication of a district MTSS guidebook that, again, will outline those systems and processes for MTSS across the district. Each school then will take a look at that and see where they are in relation to the systems that we're putting together and come up with a plan over the next several years of how to work towards those different areas. And then at the junior high level, our reading interventionist will be trying out some more standards aligned, more rigorous interventions for reading and writing as we continue to really take a deep dive, since this was our first year with a full-time reading interventionist. At the junior high, she's done an excellent job of providing some feedback to us of like, here's where we see strengths in our programming currently, and here's how we can make it better. So we've been working with her to try some new things out for next school year. So we're looking forward to seeing how those work with our students.
And our student services staff, school psychologists, school social workers, special education teachers have been an integral component to the process of developing the MTSS systems. MTSS really is the kind of gateway to special education, making sure that we're providing students with interventions, but then identifying students who are not responding to those interventions. So that marriage between general education staff and student services staff is present.
The next goal is really talking about professional development. During the 21-22 school year, my first year in the district, I worked very closely with our administrators in looking at our strategic plan and our school improvement goals, and really putting together year-long professional development plans that were aligned to the strategic goals that we were focusing on, as well as the school improvement goals, to ensure that we had cohesion and it wasn't a one and done, but it was ongoing, and our sessions built upon each other from month to month. Our February Teacher Institute as well, we did a mini conference for our teachers where we sought their feedback of different topics that they were interested in growing in as professionals. I did my best to try to get as many different speakers and presenters to come in aligned to those topics, and our teachers were able to choose the sessions that they felt best matched their personal goals as professionals in the classroom. And we relaunched our instructional coaching program and a student-centered model. It got a little bit muddy during COVID, where everyone just kind of pitched in and did whatever they could do to help the students. But as we were transitioning out of that phase, it was important that we relaunched our coaching program in a way that was put our students and their learning at the center. And so we did a lot of work with that last school year. This school year, again, we completed that another year-long professional development plan based on the identified strategic goals that we were focused on and the school improvement goals. And our October, we shifted Teacher Institute to October this past school year because we wanted teachers to have more time to implement what they were learning in the sessions. February left us March, April, May. October gave us some additional months to try some new things out in the classroom, and we're continuing at that this upcoming school year. And we also had a goal of increasing the number of teachers that were utilizing coaching cycles throughout the district. I know a couple months ago we had the first grade team come. We didn't even envision team coaching cycles, but they, took the ball and ran with that. So we were excited to see the increase in coaching cycles compared to the year prior. And we were strategic in having our coaches at the K-5 level to support the implementation of Eureka Math Squared, as well as the 95% planning. 95% phonics in the planning for the teachers to ensure that they had that additional layer of support for new curriculum. Next year, we'll continue with our year-long professional development plans related to school and district goals on both those early release and institute days, and we will continue that strategic use of our instructional coaches in both student-centered coaching cycles and our new curriculum implementation with ELA. Goal C was, we talked earlier about having assessments. Now this goal is actually using the assessments to guide what's happening in the classroom. So last school year, we ensured that we continued or came back to that data analysis at both the district and school level when thinking about developing our strategic plan as well as our school improvement plans. We also ensured that we conducted the grade level data analysis meetings each trimester to identify at-risk students and to plan for intervention using our FastBridge screening data. This past school year, as part of our MTSS committee, we were analyzing the data review process to ensure we had consistency across the district and see where we could potentially strengthen that process at both the Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 level. We were able to utilize our new summative assessments through our new programs to really begin to review student progress and make instructional decisions based on standards within the programs. And as you saw last month, Dr. Rolanitis shared the ongoing writing assessments and the data analysis that came from that as well at the junior high level. Next school year, we'll be able to implement then our common formative and summative assessments through our new ELA program at the K-5 level. We'll continue where our committee left off, again, at looking at those Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 data review processes for implementation or refinement at each school. And we will be focusing on more clearly defined measurable goals as part of our school improvement planning process. Still going. So four is talking about professional development, but really thinking about it in a broader perspective just beyond our certified staff, but feedback we had gotten from both our classified staff as well, of really ensuring that all certified and classified staff receive the training that they need to be successful in their position. 21-22 school year, we invited all new staff, not just our teachers, to our new staff orientation day in August. We also redesigned that mid-year institute day to ask our classified staff as well areas that they were looking for growth with, and we were able to arrange that as well. This past school year, again, we moved that institute day for that more implementation of learning for both classified and certified staff. We were able to, and I will let Allison talk about that. Go ahead.
So we offered specific training to our paraprofessionals on our early release days. Classified staff have the option to take that training. The topics that we offered this year, they were able to attend with our speech language pathologist,
Matthew Bod.
We offered a plethora of training through Infinitech, which offers some individualization for paraprofessionals. Our board certified behavior analysts providing training to our paras on what we call collection
Data.
As well as the PAEF, which is questions about
Behavioral functions,
so that they're a part of
at developing the behavioral intervention plans for students. Oftentimes our parapros are on the front.
I presented on the ins and outs of special education just to give paraprofessionals a better understanding of special education law and why it is that we do what we do. And also
We made available CPR
training to our staff
and the support of our board certified professionals on how they can implement their plan.
And then thinking about next steps into this school year, this first one has actually already taken place. Mrs. Chorley arranged for our administrative assistants to receive some Google training per their request of wanting to get to know all of the different Google products a little bit better. So that happened this week, actually. And then we'll continue the accomplishments that have previously been mentioned over the past 2 school years to ensure that we are doing our best to make sure that all staff members feel like they have what they need to be successful in their positions here in Mokena.
It's a new voice. So goal 4C, and up in the right, it's not a sunshine. This is my HR symbol. So we're all working together. Exactly. The district shall ensure that the onboarding process fully informs and prepares newly hired staff for the expectation of their assigned position. So taking over HR in this past year, some of the accomplishments that we had was hiring a professional HR expert. So we did that 4 months ago. She's been pretty much amazing. So she's been going through, everybody's nodding over there, yes, auditing the entire onboarding process for all of our staff members. She's hosting new hire orientation. So she's going to be partnering with our principals and Dr. Johnson for the new hire orientation. So part of what she's doing is all of that onboarding paperwork. She's trying to streamline that process and go through a real thorough review of benefits and for the staff members. And she's also taking a look at how we are consistent through all 3 buildings, specifically with how we're onboarding substitute teachers, so we can be consistent with those expectations. and the processes. So they're very clear. And then, yep, thank you. And so part of what we're doing is having a follow-up conversation. So she's having follow-up communication, and just those conversations, just part of that. We're here for you. I'm here for you. This is your HR department. How can we help you? What have you found? How can we get the feedback from you to do better at what we're doing? Make sure you really feel welcome. Welcome to our team. Welcome to our school. And how can we best support you? So we talked about having maybe a 30-day follow-up conversation and then a 90-day follow-up conversation to see if there's anything else that we need to talk about. And then the continuation of what we talked about that she's already accomplished.
So goal 5B, the making better use of social media and developing a district app, the transition to the new website with Aptogee and its marriage with ThrillShare, and how we can post information in the live feed on the website at the same time we put things on Facebook and Twitter has been very, very helpful. That, of course, went live in May of 22 towards the end of the previous school year. I can say that our social media posts since then have more than doubled in frequency, so we're getting more events out there, more things for our parents to see. I will say that Jake owned the Aptogee transition process, and it is in the words of Kenny Rogers, you picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. So Lincoln came on board and learned all of our new systems, and so just putting the launch of the app sort of on the back burner as he came on board, and also had the position for Josh Echevarria. That'll be a focus for next year, as well as working with Nicole Swanberg, who is on maternity leave right now, our coordinator for community relations, to enable a district Instagram account. Again, what's nice about this, the Aptogee software and the ThrillShare software that we have access to, is that it allows us in the event of emergency or crisis to reach out on all social media platforms, text message, email, and our website all at the same time through one click of a button. And would also be able to go on the app. The calendars do need to be refined. We need to do a little bit better job of working with the buildings to make sure that their calendars are updated and then also synced, so that what shows up on Dave's calendar from his building, Mike's is in his building, Rachel's, but on the district website it has all of it, the district calendar. So you know where the band concerts are at, et cetera. Goal 5C, again, making more information about programs easily accessible to the public via the app and the website. We did add a transparency page. Dr. Shaw maintains that with, basically puts every time something's approved, it gets put on the transparency page, all contracts, audits, RFPs, et cetera. Coming this year, we will put our curriculum maps online once they are completed, and a launch for the district app will be completed. Goal 5E, working to provide more frequent and engaging communication with families. This year held superintendent coffees in the fall. And that was my outreach to families. Lightly attended, but those folks that came in, we kind of went through a high-level overview of the school district. Each one lasted a little over an hour, and well received by those that attended. Regarding communication with staff, our HR coordinator has been active in going out to buildings, explaining changes in benefits, et cetera. I think she's done a fantastic job of putting herself out there in front of our staff. It's been very well received. Next year, we'll begin a district newsletter produced at least 3 times a year, and investigating hosting a community leader luncheon. This is something that we've done in districts that have been in the past, where folks are invited in, fire, police, elected officials, et cetera, to come in and actually observe for a short time in our schools, walk the buildings while kids are here, see what our classes look like, and then have the opportunity to hear a little bit about the district and what's going on, and how we can work together and partner with our community stakeholders. Okay. Next up are completed goals. As the strategic plan was coming together, the dual language program review was in progress. It was listed as one of the strategic goals given as part of the curriculum process that was started when I came on. The program itself was dissolved after looking at student data. Goal 5A, district updating its website, making it more accessible, visually appealing, and more transparent. While we can say the website is launched, it's never over. not just a checkbox. Lincoln, if you want to talk a little bit about your work, update the website for next year.
Sure, yeah. I've been working with Apogee. They've been very good about answering my questions. Usually if I get stuck on something, they can answer it in less than 10 minutes. But updating photos and stuff on the website is not very straightforward. We have to make sure every picture with the student's privacy and concern that it's okay to post a child's picture openly on the internet. I know there's some newer, fancier updates that Apogee wants to present to us. We haven't explored that yet, but that is an option. It would just be a layout change, but it would definitely look a lot sleeker and nicer if we want to go that route. So.
And this is the time of year when we kind of look everything over and make sure if any names have changed and any phone numbers changed, we make sure we get things updated. So if you happen to be on the website and notice something looks a little out of date, give us a holler. And moving on.
So goals that have yet to been started at this point are 1F with looking at implementing a technology scope and sequence based on the ISTE standards as well as the Illinois technology standards. We've yet to start this particular goal. Our first goal that I had started the night with has really taken precedence at this point in time based on district data and where we felt the most impact could be had for the most students here in Mokena. So it'll be something that we look to, in the next few years as part of our plan. The other piece is just noting that the Project Lead the Way curriculum does touch some of those standards, but it's definitely not the scope of really the heart of the standards that is part of that Illinois technology framework.
Okay. Most of mine are ongoing. So shall continue to update and modernize school buildings and infrastructure in accordance with the facilities master plan. So our facilities master plan, we update every year in March. We work with our district engineer who is in the audience back there in the corner and our architect team and build our capital plan and update it on an annual basis, taking a look at here's what we have planned, and occasionally there's something that comes into the plan. For example, we have warm, safe, and dry are our priorities, and then we talked about the project that's next year coming in is the playground. Wasn't in the original one, but it's also a safety issue, and so we put that into the plan. And so you can see that's the top line item on there. It covers a couple different years. And so every year we update this plan. I've added links to the slide, so it takes you straight to the presentation for the Fund 21 update and the Master Facilities Plan. So clicking on either one of those links will take you to those. They're also right on the transparency page. And this is an update of what we've done and what's coming in next year. And then the projects that we had are listed in our capital plan. And so the projects from 22-23 are listed and they're underway and ongoing. And some of them are done, some of them are in progress. And then the 23-24, again, some of those are in progress. The playground, some of the flooring repairs crossing over multiple years. And then on the bottom of that list is the MJHS chiller replacement, which is a very large project that had an 18-month lead time. So we had it in our plan, and then we had to kick it into a different fiscal year with supply chain issues. Last year we had to deal with stone quarry strikes, and there's just current conditions that you may not expect or plan for that happen, that all of a sudden your budget and your plan need to be adjusted. So they're ongoing. 3B shall continue again to monitor and improve the appearance and cleanliness of the school buildings. And in the time that I've been here, the 6 years that I've worked with the majority of the people in the room, the buildings look amazing compared to where we were. Prior to the limiting rate referendum with warm, safe, and dry, it was just really kind of like, can we keep everything clean? There were issues with cleanliness at the beginning. We have changed the custodial contract, because of some of those issues. We implemented management meetings with the outsourced companies, management team. We do that meeting every 2 weeks. The principals have been participants, and we created a report card for our custodian company, so we give them a grade on a weekly basis, and they report out. We have the staff, they share with their staff members, get feedback from the teachers and staff to say what's worked, what's not worked. They've been very responsive. Alpha's been very responsive when we've given them the feedback. And then, just some of the little things that look really nice are our new soap dispensers with the logos from each of the different schools are on there. We've been, we're getting to a point where things are now, I know I'm just spinning over here with how many times you've seen my slide with where our local revenue comes from. But like, we're starting to do those rinse and repeat things for landscaping, which is not someplace where we were before. We're saying we're going to do our mulch this year. We're going to put some flowers in this year. We're going to make sure that we're string trimmed and spade cut in the flower beds to make it look really beautiful. We'll keep going from there. And then, I'm turning it over. 3C. Okay.
So unfortunately, I was hoping this wasn't an ongoing slide, but goal 3C is the district shall continue to improve the technology infrastructure. It relates to supporting student learning. Through some of the E-rate funding, we purchased new switches and wireless equipment. When it arrives, it'll make the network faster and more secure. Just for a background of this, we did talk about this in a October-November board meeting. Most of our current equipment is end of life or in the process of being end of life, which basically means once it's end of life, we will not be able to generally not be able to get updates for the switching software, which is not recommended for a secure environment. Purchased 42 Ruckus multi-gig switches, upgrading the backbone speed of the network from 1 gigabit per second to 10 gigabits per second. 164 Ruckus access points. 148 of them are basically classroom office area use. We bought 16 bigger, more heftier ones for better coverage in areas such as gyms and cafeterias that can handle more devices on it in case we have conferences or something. These access points will allow for the new Chromebooks to utilize the new latest wireless standards. We also purchased CloudPath to be able to easily manage the new equipment, the logical side, as well as the physical switches as well. So unfortunately, my story is, I know we were talking about the quarry strikes, but our supply chain issue is the United Center and the Chicago Park District got their order in before us. So currently still waiting for this most of this equipment to come in.
Goal 3D shall engage in sound, responsible financial stewardship through the alignment of resources with district strategic goals. What I chose to put on this slide were some of the accomplishments. We do present the budgets every year. You also see inside my board reports the monthly and yearly to date financial reports for revenue and expenses year to date, and then month over month. And then this was some cash flow analysis that we meet with our financial advisor from PMA. And it looks terrible on the printout, but on here you can kind of see a little bit, like as far as what we do with the cash flow is we take a look at when we're going to run payroll, when we're going to have our accounts payable. We do that accounts payable once a month. So we plan our investments to mature on the day before we have an accounts payable cycle, because we know when they are. We post our board meetings every year. So we know when the board meeting is going to be, when we're going to run our accounts payable. We know when our payroll dates are, so our cash flow is aligned and our investments are aligned with when we need that cash. And, we can talk about this in more detail at any time, but we have the long-term investments, or the dark on the bottom. So we have some money that we have for long-term investment. For example, our working cash fund, which is our rainy day fund, can be invested in the long term because we don't need that in our annual cycle. We have some shorter term investments that we need them to mature. And just over the past year, a year ago, year and a half ago, we were getting investments at 0.12, 0.5. Last month, we got a 5.2. I mean, we've really seen a big increase in interest rates, and therefore, reflectively, we'll see a different number in our interest income next year in that budget. And so we're monitoring that on a monthly basis, what our cash flow looks like. The same goal with the 5-year financial projections. That's also something that we do annually in March. And we've been very strategic in making sure that the board policy says between 35, I think it technically says 33, 35, but my chart says 35 and 65% of fund balance to expenses. And so these are based on our current assumptions. So some of those assumptions change on an annual basis, like interest income is going to go up. So we didn't really expect that. But the majority of it is really contractual obligations. ESSER money, we didn't really plan for that, but then we could plan for it. So giving our current assumptions that we have for today, and in the presentation that was given in March, this is what our 5-year projections look like. So we're on the high end of it. And it looks like it falls within those board parameters. So that's the financial stewardship. And then the allocating resources, people, time, and money equitably and appropriately based on student, school, and community needs. This is really a group project that we use our budgets and our staff members, and we report to the state board based on site-based accounting, which was maybe 5 years ago, and then evidence-based funding right around that same time, because part of what was the equitable. So we wanted to make sure, or the state wanted to make sure, that school districts were equitable in their different buildings across a district, to say, and you can see where our average is on the top, and then each of the different buildings, what the student per spending dollar amount is. And then again on 4B, allocating resources equitably and appropriately, and this is based on student count, and I built a slide, but it's not really my data. So
in March, when we began talking about our staffing presentation for the following year, the core FTE per grade level has been at 7 now and been stable for a number of years. Where we've seen the greatest change has been in non-core staffing over the last few years, where we've just basically hired to fill needs. The increase in students that have IEPs as a result in hiring additional special education teachers, but also a service delivery model where we have, instead of having multi-grade classrooms, we have students there supported by a special education teacher inside of a general ed classroom in a co-taught environment. An increase in speech language pathology services because pandemic had created many more students that needed those services, the resulting from masking. There just wasn't a lot of early intervention services that took place in 2020, so then that created a backlog of all those little kiddos when they got to us that needed those services. So responding to student needs and making sure that we have enough resources in reserve to make sure that if we add an FTE, we're not going to start killing our budget. Much to Dr. Shaw's chagrin, it seems like every year I come to her and ask for more people. And those people are all generally in support roles, interventionists, special education teachers, we've had social work. All those things are based on needs of the students, but we really haven't seen a change in our overall enrollment. It's just the students that we have need more help. And so by managing our people as tightly as we can and making sure, we don't want to have class sizes that are excessively large, but we want to make sure we're conservative enough so that in a time of need, we have the resources available to support our students. Compensation trends. Generally, anytime bargaining comes around, we will review our, definitely do a deep dive into compensation trends. what I can say though is, I look at the pet insurance thing and it cracks me up. I'm sorry. But the addition to Kim in the HR role has been wonderful because she is just a real insurance guru. She's done a great job of working with Alliant, our broker, and our staff to make sure their teachers and our staff are maximizing their benefits that they have coming to them. We've also added a couple options, Legal Shield, for et cetera, for example. And, we just, for example, sold the MCSA contract, and we're very comparable with districts around us now. We're in a really good shape. We're fortunate, and that shows in the fact that we're almost completely staffed now. I believe we will start the year fully staffed with paras, correct, Allison?
Almost. We still need one.
We need one. We're a lot closer needing one. There are a lot of districts that need 10. But because we've been able to be competitive with our compensation, we've been able to make sure we fill those positions. The same is true with our bus drivers. We've adjusted over the last couple of years their hourly rates, and because there was a while there where we were really, really lean in transportation and canceling routes, and that was no good. But we've subs, bus drivers, and our hourly rate for our paras has really helped us a lot. And then next slide, making sure again we're as forward-facing with our staff as possible. Every retiree is getting a face-to-face meeting to talk about their benefit, talk about their benefit calculation. Open enrollment meetings have gone to the buildings rather than just call me if you have a question. Having wellness events on a regular basis. We added the incident IQ ticketing system this year for all HR-related questions. So that's the same ticketing system that they use for technology. It's the same system they use for building issues. It's right there. And then that allows us to track and make sure all questions get answered. And then our HR webpage, which was new this past year.
Yeah, the link is on there too, so that's also an active link.
So, and what is my longest report? That is a high-level overview of all components of our strategic plan. At this point, I will entertain any questions.
I'll go first if that's okay. It's really not questions. It's just you should be proud of this report. You're always very well prepared, and I appreciate that. All of my notes are things that I'm excited to see, like the MTSS guidebook. Was really happy to hear all of those topics that you did with the training. I think that's great, and it builds community. I think it's terrific. I was just really impressed, and just want to say thank you for all your hard work. Nicely done.
Okay.
Can I chime in real quick, Eric, please?
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree. I think that this is great. A couple suggestions, I think, is, well, I guess a clarifying question is, on your accomplishments for last year, because the strategic plan had just been implemented just months before that, I'm assuming that there was no goals for that year established, right? Because it was just the strategic plan was that. So that's fine. So I get that. So maybe then on your next update, you're going to keep what you want to accomplish this next year, and then give us an update. It doesn't fall off. In other words, if that's okay. So we're on the same page with that. And then I think the website potentially we should think about moving into the ongoing category instead of the done category. Like you said, kind of like it always going to be something. And right now we have it in the done category, and I'm not positive that's the right place. So just think about that. And I noticed, and maybe this is in a different place, but I think, Dr. Shaw, I'm not sure if this is a question for you. The transparency page, I wanted to also comment that I've noticed, I mean, that page is completely developed. It looks starkly different than what it did, a year ago when you guys went live. And I think it's all really good information that the community can use. I think the strategic plan, though, fell off of that, or did it move? Okay.
It's on the board page.
Okay. Because I saw it there before, and then I went to go, in my work here. Okay, got it. And let me just see if there's anything else. Mr. Roney, I'm assuming that this will be answered in the special education review that we look at in September. But I was just curious because you were saying that, we were adding staff for the special ed. And I think you answered it, that the reason for that was because enrollment in those areas that students need the services went up. I guess the question is the ratio still similar to what it was before? Is it better? Is it more favorable for the students at this point? Is it the same?
I don't know that I can quantify favorable or not. What I can say is that we requests for evaluation. So we are required when a parent requests an evaluation of special education services for their child to entertain that request, and in general within 14 days give a response. Sometimes parents will come to us with a neuropsychological report that triggers what we call child find. So, if we are obligated to find any child in the community who has a disability, identify those needs, and offer services to that child. So it's a hybrid of things. It's simply, to answer your question, our percentage or rate of students within our educational community here has increased. We used to be at about 16%, and that is increasing. Another factor is children when they turn, step back a bit, prior to the age of 3, students or children with disabilities qualify for early intervention services. Those early intervention services actually can prevent future issues in the classroom. During COVID, remote services were offered, and many families declined those remote services because they were not considered the same as being face-to-face, which means then we have a backlog of kids, students who may have received early intervention speech services start to flood us. Just in Will County alone, there's over 200 students, or a couple of years ago, there were only 200, there were students who should have been receiving early intervention services whose parents had declined those services. So we're seeing an increase in students who are coming to us in preschool and kindergarten who perhaps haven't received those speech services. Those errors might have been cleaned up before they got here. So overall, our work has been to try to proactively identify those students. We've been screening students. We've been providing interventions where we can, but all of that really takes staff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you'll get it. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay.
Yeah. So I guess my only final suggestion is I would like to, potentially see more opportunities for parents to engage with the administration and the schools and the teachers. I don't think are I think that happens, in other words, but probably more of the administration or others in a two-way conversation. So I think that the coffees with the superintendent were a great thing. It's unfortunate that we didn't, I don't know why people didn't show up, but okay, well, we tried that. So now, what other things can we try that maybe could get more turnout? And allow those opportunities for that two-way communication. Because the other thing is that parent advisory, I think that's great. And it was really well received. A lot of people applied. So we're leaving these parents without that opportunity, turning them away, kind of, saying no. And then what could we do in addition to, that's it. Thank you.
One last thing is, the slide 4B, near the end, sorry, there isn't a page number. That's very telling about the changes in the percentages of low-income students, English learners, students with IEPs. And the changes, post-COVID are pretty, significant. So the adjustments that you're making, are, it's nice to see. I look forward to the special ed review that in September.
Okay, Dr. Cohen, do you have anything else?
Oh, I think that concludes my report.
All right, Dr. Johnson.
Can my computer turn back on? That hosted these students brought to these future teachers, and our hope is that we hear more and more and more about the teacher pipeline becoming less and less, that these seniors will go off to college next year and in 4 years come back and want to work in our community. So I just wanted to say thank you for those teachers for not only what they do for their students on a daily basis, but the fact that they've inspired future teachers to pursue a teaching career as their career path in the future.
Dr. Johnson. Okay, Ms. Cerrone.
So ESY services are up and running. Everything's going great. Our students have what they need. We had a few hiccups just with transportation initially, but those have all been resolved. I was over there today actually dropping off a Chromebook, so that was kind of fun. And knock on fake wood, we actually have hired 2 paraprofessionals within the past week, and we only need 1 left. And I also just would like to let the board know, and for our new board members, we are required to spend, it's called maintenance of effort. We're required to spend the same or more year over year unless a specific allowable exemption tied to student need is present. And I just want to let the board know that we have met our obligation for maintenance of effort for fiscal year 24, which is great.
Questions for Ms. Cerrone? Okay, Dr. Shaw.
Thank you. In my report and in our action items tonight, we've got a motion to approve the year-end bills. We do this once a year. The board approves the bills tonight, and then we run a special end of the year to close out all of our purchase orders and contracts or bills that we haven't received prior to tonight's meeting. So we'll have that, and that'll be included in with the July accounts payable bills. And action for next month, we'll have the window enhancements and waste service. So that information was included. And then you'll see the tentative FY24 budget in August. Our current projects we've got underway, we've got a lot of stuff going on. We have our construction season in the summer. We've got, and there's some pictures inside this also. We've got the PFA work that's being done down in the preschool. The tuck pointing is happening outside, so you might see, some of the brickwork that's being done. The flooring work is starting here and in this building. There'll be painting it here and at MIS. MIS got a new receiving door, a new rooftop unit for their office. MJ got some lighting done, some new lighting in the commons area. And then the unit vent project down in the self area is taking place right now also. So we've got a lot of things going on in the arena of some construction work. And then in the finance, I talked about that interest income. So that's a really good thing for us to have that additional, and we'll see that in the FY24 budget. That's it for me.
Sure. Okay, Mr. Hens.
Mr. Bush, do you mind if I just interject for a second? I completely forgot something. I want to highlight the fact that we had 4 award winners, and 2 of them are from the Student Services Department. And I have known for 5 years that our department rocks above all others, but that is just proof tonight that we have some of the best people working for us in the Student Services Department here. So thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay. All right. Follow that up, Mr. Hens.
Yeah, I know, right?
I do have the approval of the action item for the new 1st and 5th grade Chromebook purchase for the 4-year cycle. Our summer work with the help of the maintenance department, the technology such as the ViewSonics and minis and document cameras have been removed from the kindergarten and pre-K wings for prep for painting and construction. Most of the Chromebooks here at MES and MIS have been cleaned and updated. Hopefully they'll be moving on to the junior high tomorrow. We fixed our laptop cloning software. The image has been created, and as soon as those Chromebooks are done, we will start cloning teacher laptops. The end of the year Skyward rollover process has started. We were hoping to have it finished by the meeting, but we ran into a snag. We're waiting to hear back from Skyward. We kind of need help with one final thing. I'd say we're probably 75 to 80% done with that. So a lot of lessons to learn with that and a lot of note taking. We have an ongoing document that Josh and I keep track of everything that we've done and what we have to do for next year so we know for next time. We're looking at mid to end July for the additional security cameras we purchased for that. As we talked about before, the network refresh, we're still missing 48 out of the 482 switches and the 16 big access points. Those are still kind of on back order. I meet with the vendor tomorrow. We have a weekly meeting about this to see if we can somehow get it faster. Hopefully they can go through some change and find the availability and find those switches and get it to us. Backup plan is we have to fix the guest network here and add coverage in areas that need it and basically do some maintenance on the regular Wi-Fi to hopefully not run into some of the issues that we ran in earlier this year. So on another note, I just want to let they're both their Department of Transport first name, all of that, and they basically said just keep an eye on your identity in the near future. So if anyone's interested, I can get more information when it comes in, but Illinois hasn't released anything yet. They just said that they want all the facts before they set up a call center that you can call for more information, and that has not been set up yet. So that's my report. That's it. Okay, Lincoln Area Special Education, Mrs. Briscoe.
Are there no questions?
No, not in the summer.
No, we'll respect you guys. All right. I know. boring month without hearing our principals. Over at Lincoln Way, not too much went on last month. We reorganized our board over there. And Jim Martin remains president, Terry Doyle remains vice president, and Anna Briscoe remains secretary. On finances, June 1st, each member district will get a bill due July 1st for estimated O&M and transportation charges for 23-24. And we approved our director, Sarah Rexroad's goals, her contract. We approved our new principal at Pioneer Grove. We approved Judy Boyens, Michael Romeo, and Kevin Richter. And that is it. That concludes my report.
Mrs. Briscoe, sorry. Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to the FOIA requests. So 4 of them have been completed. Okay, all right, Kathy, ready to go. Action requests. I move to approve the minutes from the May 17, 2023 regular session and closed session meetings and the May 31st, 2023 special session meeting as presented. Second by Ms. Briscoe. Any questions? Please call the vote.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost? Yes. Mrs. Tunney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. District bills. Mrs. Briscoe had the honor this month.
Yes, thank you. Don't need to approve.
Second by Mr. Andreessen. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost?
Yes.
Mrs. Tunney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Okay, motion passed. We had a very fluid personnel report this, lots of hiring, which is good. Hopefully we can get one more in the next month or so. So personnel.
Move to approve personnel recommendations 8C 1 through 7 as presented, subject to successful background check if applicable.
Second.
Second by Lisa. Any discussion, questions? Okay, please call the vote.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost?
Yes.
Mrs. Tunney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes. Okay, motion passed. Next up is the consent agenda.
I move to approve consent agenda item.
Second.
Second by Ms. Zelinski. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Mrs. Ost?
Yes.
Mrs. Tunney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Purchase of new Chromebooks with cases.
I move to approve the purchase of 350 new double 500 third generation model Chromebooks with cases at a cost not to exceed $158,612.50.
Second.
Second by Ms. Zelinski. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Mrs. Tunney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost?
Okay, motion passed. Next up is to adopt the FY23 amended budget.
Move to approve the adoption of FY 20 budget.
Second.
Second by Ms. Zelinski. Any discussion? Please call the vote.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yes.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost?
Yes.
Mrs. Tunney?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Next up is the authorization to prepare the budget fiscal year 24.
I move to authorize Dr. Terry Shaw, the chief pool business official, to prepare the fiscal year 2023-2024 tentative budget as presented.
Second.
Second. Such a formal request.
I think Terry wrote that one, guys.
Wow. I mean,
I think Terry's like,
I
Kathy,
think
you better
she
get that
did.
title.
Yeah.
It's not this. This is
Yeah. I mean, Lincoln, do you feel cheated that you weren't named in the Chromebook?
Lincoln's your name is Chromebook guy for the next.
Chromebook, yeah. Got it. All right. Any other discussions besides Terry blushing? Okay, please call the vote.
Mr. Andreessen?
Yeah.
Mrs. Briscoe?
Yes.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost?
Yes.
Mrs. Tenney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed. Next up is the parent-student handbook.
I have a question on this.
I have a question on what?
On the parent-student handbook, do you want to move it?
It's gotta be first and
Do you want to
second
move it?
before we
Okay,
go to
that's
discussion.
what I was going to ask.
Okay, I'll move it. I move to approve the 2023-2024 Parent-Student Handbook as presented.
Second.
Julie, okay, discussion.
Go for it.
Yes. Sorry, I may have missed something, but I thought this was, we were just kind of in the beginning stages with that parent advisory council, that we were going to meet again to discuss any changes that they may have suggested. Did I miss a step in here?
No, the typically is presented once for their feedback. The feedback we got was largely around attendance. I think that was the big bulk of it. We did talk about dress code a little bit. We talked about, taking video and social media, et cetera, a little bit. But the biggest issue that came out of it regarding attendance and attendance letters, et cetera, really revolved less around the handbook and more around the notifications that we send out. And so we've taken that feedback to heart, and we're going to be working on that. But other than that, what's the modifications to the handbook that were made were primarily just updating with policy. So it was not our intention to introduce it a second time.
Would it do any harm to table this to the next meeting?
We do have to have it ready to go and put it on our Facebook, on our website before the beginning of the school year. I didn't hear unfortunately, I didn't hear anything before the meeting tonight about the handbook, I suppose.
That's my
Yeah.
fault. My
No, that's okay.
apologies, but I would like to consider tabling this till the next meeting. I know we have a motion pending, and we can vote accordingly, but I would ask that the members consider just tabling this to the next meeting so I can take a closer look at some of the changes. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second. We're testing our little Robert's Rules of Authority here. All right, so we have, did you make a formal motion to?
We have to vote on this motion, and then I can make a motion, a secondary motion.
You can amend you can mention that you want to amend it. If that amendment can be seconded, it can be voted on.
Okay.
I'm more curious. Did you see something in there that was concerning, or we didn't get a chance to look at it? I'm honestly just asking.
I would just like to look at it a little closer. I actually did not think we were voting on it today. That's my fault, and so I'm just looking for additional time. So I would move to amend the previous motion to move forward with the vote and table this to the next meeting.
Parent-student handbook does not get approved until July. Is there any issues with that?
Not at this point. It still has to be sent out. Sending out in July is fine. We can make that work.
Is that printed or just put on?
It's not printed anymore. It's just
That's what I
online.
thought.
Yeah. We used to do it much earlier when we had to print copies and distribute hard copies.
Okay, so was there a form, there was a lot of discussion here. So was there a formal, she moved. All right, is there a second to approve the tabling or the amended motion? Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, Kathy, you on board with you following what's going on here? Okay.
We're voting to table this to next month.
Yes, a yes is to vote to table. No is to approve it tonight or further discuss it tonight. Okay.
Ready?
I think we're ready.
Okay.
You're probably better shape than we are, I think. Okay.
Mrs. Briscoe? No. Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan?
Yes.
Mrs. Ost? Yes. Mrs. Tenney?
Yes.
Mrs. Zelinski?
No.
Mr. Andreessen?
Okay, let's be honest about something. It gets put on the website, there's no printing. But the only reason we're pushing this back is we didn't get a chance to read everything to them where they're comfortable. But there's no inherent issues that anybody's brought up. We can table it till July, it's gonna go on the website just fine, we're not messing any printing up. That's fine.
So no. Yes?
So I'm voting yes to
Yes.
table it because
Okay.
it has no financial impact on our district. If there was a financial impact, if we had to get things printed, it'd be a different conversation. But table until July.
All right, so I believe the vote was 5-2 to table it until July.
Yep.
Okay. Items for July 19 agenda. Okay, it's going to be a quick meeting.
Well, I'll just let you know, I'll let you know what I hear from Gary Sabilka regarding the 17th, and that may impact what the 19th looks like. So I'll let you know.
Okay. Stop smiling, you three. Okay. Next steps. I don't think there's any action on it for the good of Mokena.
I've got one thing. I want to thank the Mokena Lions Club, specifically Lion Marv Orr. They do a program around the holidays generally, but they also do one during the summer to provide gift cards for families in need. And in particular, there's a focus in the summer on families with children at the Mokena schools because we're not providing those free and reduced lunches to students during the summer. He came in and we've met. They had a list of students from the food pantry, but thanks to Stacy Kittler, who was here earlier, she was able to provide me a list of families that also have needs throughout the district. And so I've got a pile of Burcott's gift cards getting ready to distribute to those families at $150 a piece to help get them, some groceries at Burcott's to help with the summer. So very grateful to the Lions Club and for their support of our kids and our families.
That's great. I have just a reminder that the Mokena Community Park District Foundation is hosting a golf outing on July 26th, and we need some more golfers. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what date did you say?
July 26th.
I'll consult with my sisters in golf here at the table and see if we can make an out.
I have one more thing. The Village of Mokena too brought back their food trucks. I don't know if everybody has seen, but I don't want to say the wrong thing, I'm a little nervous, but I believe, look at their website, but I believe it's every other Wednesday, downtown Front Street, right? Is that called downtown? Front Street.
Front Street, yeah.
In the evening. So get out there and see your neighbors. Okay, that's it.
Can I just remind everybody the Mokena marching band will be in the 4th of July parade, so make sure you clap when we walk by. And principals, if you want to ride and or walk with us, I don't know if we'll have it.
Their students will also be walking.
Their students will be walking too, so make sure you're out there and waving at all of us for the 4th of July parade.
As we're preparing for next year, if you guys, meaning the principals, if you are aware of students or else and of students that need vision or hearing, one of the things that the Lions Club does a lot of is help support our kids. And it's one of the reasons why we fund it with the firecracker dance coming up on July 15th. But if we seriously have students, just let me know about it. We'll help them out because I want to make sure they can see those classrooms in the fall.
Very good to know. Thank you so much.
A lot of good in Mokena. Anything else? Okay, I move that the Board of Education adjourn to closed session for purposes of the personnel. Whoa, man, second. Any discussion? Okay, please call the vote.
Mr. Bush?
Yes.
Mrs. McMillan? Yeah. Mrs. Bowles? Yes. Yes, yes. Mrs. Tiny? Yes.
Have a good night, guys.
Mrs. Zelinski?
Yes.
Mr. Andreessen?
Sure. Lincoln, can you help me for a second?
Yes. All right, motion passed. It's 9:14. We will do it at 9:23.